Hello, Black-owned economy. Welcome to another edition of B.O.E. Rooms. Today we're joined by Jonathan. He's put a bit of a description on there about who he is, what he does. I won't go into too much detail about tonight's session, but the title of tonight's session is New Year. Oh, that's not what it says there, but it's meant to be New Year. New You is the theme of B.O.E. for January. So if you've never attended one of our B.O.E. rooms in the past, what it is, it's an interactive live room which is held on Zoom, and basically we reach out to members of our Black-owned economy group to host a room on a specific topic which is linked to whatever theme month that we're doing. So we've got a couple in January, and we had one last Thursday, we've got one tonight, and then we've got one next Thursday. So if you want to find out any more details about what we've done in the past or what we've done, what's coming up soon, if you head over to our website, which is www.blackowned-economy.co.uk, click on BOE rooms and you'll be able to find out all the information that you want. So without further ado, I will hand over to Jonathan, who's our host for this evening.
So good evening. I hope everyone's having a pleasant evening. So to start off with, who am I? So this is a presentation about New Year, New Truths, and I've titled it How to Play the Same Game as the Rich. So I became a father at 17. O2 Awards winner for my short film documentary on blogs at 22. I graduated with a BA Honours Content Creation for Broadcasting degree at 23. I worked at Channel 4 alongside the commission editors within my role in the Commercial Affairs Department for 4 years. After redundancy during the recession and austerity in the last decade, I continued my self-employed creative projects whilst in the day shaping the lives of our future leaders within my role as a mathematics teacher for 6 years, which is what I still do, as well as a Taekwondo teacher for 3 years, even though there's been some reshuffling with the pandemic situation. And then throughout my changes in my career, one thing that remained was my love affair with words. And 1 million love songs later, 2 million poetry pieces later, and after becoming a leader in training at my local global church, my dream is to see you achieve. So I'm a father, a teacher, a poetic life coach who knows to say it, feel it, see it like you already are it, and now repeat it till you are it. And I believe obtaining wealth is a skill that can be taught. Fulfillment, completeness, and divine wholeness is a manifestation of your choices. And you should make the right choice and transform your life one word at a time. So I'm posting the chat. I was going to use a whiteboard, but what I might instead do is, my question is, how do the rich make money? So if you could write in the chat how you presently believe the rich make money, and we can see a few opinions. So we've got a few answers. And my other question is, what do the rich do? So just in general, not just about making money, but what do the rich do? If you can tell me some things about people that are rich. So if I look through the answers, we got, for my first question on how do the rich make money, I can see we got investing, multiple income streams, stocks, through diverse investments, multiple investment streams, properties, inheritance. And then I'm guessing for my other question of what do the rich do, I can see someone saying work, properties, outsource, consider how to make more money. So we'll bear all those questions in mind as we go through the presentation. So, as a teacher, the most asked question when I teach maths is, what is the point of this? When will we ever need this? When will we ever use this? This made me realize teenagers and even adults more so don't know how to use information. Instead of us asking, how can I use this? Students would rather sit in a class with made up minds deciding that they do not need the information and cannot use it. Do you know how powerful you can be if you simply decide to use information? Let's look at something basic. So 1 + 1 is 2. Now really think about this. This means you can take one thing, add another thing, and you have two things. What if we use this daily and decided we will keep on getting things until we have 10 things? We also know something basic as 2 × 2 is 4. What if we really use this and realize this means I can make something that is small double? Now the question should be, how can I make what I have double? Instead of what is the point of learning this? So we have the power to make things double. So another question is, why are we not using the law of multiplication? Now, do you realize how much information is stored inside you? Imagine how many seeds that are inside you that are patiently waiting for you to do something with them, for you to plant that seed, that information somewhere, and then to water it, to use it so you can grow and multiply. We look back at what some of these suggestions was about inheritance, properties, work, investing. A lot of this requires using that information or even planting that property seed and letting things grow and multiply. So even in advertising is $532.5 billion industry. And all they simply do is use information to tell you what you should want. And we know advertising works, but why are we not using information and advertising to ourselves? So if we're looking at new year and new truths, one key thing I would say is, one, hopefully you're taking some notes, and two, my contact details are there, but we'll go through that later. But one of the key things I've seen in my time is, one key thing I told my students is decide that you will no longer waste information. So instead of thinking, what is the point of this? We can think about deciding we will apply one piece of information daily. So in a maths lesson, we are taught new skills in order for you to apply it, of course. But the problem is some then forget to apply it when they are not in the maths lesson, and therefore find it harder to recall the information. That means that information does not become knowledge. So the key is to turn the information into knowledge by simply applying it. Now, I could give you examples on how to apply the principle of addition, especially in this new year, by simply spending less, subtracting less. So what you keep having, what you keep having keeps being added. So you could decide to create a budget. So I use spreadsheets or Google Excel sheets so that you can reduce your spending. You can manage your budget by seeing what your incomings are and what your outgoings are, your priorities and things like that. So you're simply using the law of addition just by making sure you spend less. And of course, once you start spending less, you're saving more, which is the key. There's some people which I've blogged about, FIRE, financial independent, retire early. So the key principle for that is saving like 70%. There's different percentages, but saving 70% of your net salary and only living off the 30% and investing the rest. So the key, even though that really works for £40,000, because you need to technically have a house and other things to be able to keep most of your spending down, but this underlying principle is just to spend less and save more. And therefore you can take this further by deciding to invest it into companies that will give you a compound interest, and without us realizing we're already playing the game the rich do. But if I pause there, so with compound interest, I'm not sure if you can see my screen, so I'm going to share a new screen. So even presently, on trading 212 is where I do a lot of my investing, and on Coinbase. Now today's been, well, this week is a crazy volatile, well, it's always volatile in cryptocurrency, but this week is being even more crazy. But if we see, so a lot of my profits that I made came from actually Coinbase, and I took it out. Because if you look at the full 1 year period, and for those that don't understand cryptocurrency, I would basically say to research fintech. So that's financial technology. What's it about crypto is there's a whole new space. Because if we think about back in the day when our parents were alive, and if they invested in Google back then and internet, and bear in mind, many people then said, oh, it's the mark of the beast, it wouldn't work, these are scams and things like that back then. But if those that didn't believe all that and invested, look at where we would be now. So where you see, and financial technology in general, you have to think about, this is now our opportunity to be back. What will be the future industries for our children? So this is where you get a chance of actually getting into things that are going to be very global and big. And already, this presentation is not really about Bitcoin and crypto, but it's still about investing in other aspects and what the rich do. But as I'm on the subject, you need to think about what will be massive in future years to come. Where will money be? Because the key with investing, although it's safe to also invest in places that are already nice, which I'll talk about, like say Apple and certain banks which are paying dividends and things, that's where money currently is. But the key to actually investing is thinking about where money will be. And this is where financial technologies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other things come into play. But with where this started off, so those times when you see a big drop, this is where I've taken out my money, because remember, crypto is volatile. So what I have done with crypto is I made a few gains and I took that money out and I put it in the stock market, and I kept playing around with things like that. So I kept taking profit, because one thing people don't do with crypto and certain things is you lose money by being too greedy. When you've made a certain amount of money, it's more key to take out that money, especially taking out your original investment, and then you can let the others play. So over the time I've been doing this, now I can leave what I've got there and just let it play. But you can see these big drops is when I made like 2,000, and then I decided to pull it in something less risky, which is here, like the stock market. So with this stock market, I've basically gone from, if we look at the history, so in 4 months, I've gone from 8,000 to 25,000. Now, 2,000 of that I had to take out to fix my car, although I wasn't going to fix my car because of the pandemic, but because of MOT, they extended it for 6 months and it was coming up, because I didn't use my car all of last year. So I was still paying insurance, still paying car tax. Yeah, so I basically paid around £1,000 looking at my budget for just the car sitting there. But I decided technically it's profit. And with my daughter, I did like the idea of her seeing I've had this car for how many years and it's still running sweet. So I did fix it. So some of my profits went into that. But if we can see here, so it says I've put 18,000 in here. 6,000 withdrawals. So technically, there's only 6,000 I was playing in this account. And it says 6,000 realized profit. And then my live account now is sitting at, so the account value right now is 7,060. So only 6,000 around I was playing that was left in that account. So that is over double in the space of 4 months. Although a lot of my investment, if we look at some of the things I've got here, because remember, I'm speaking about the law of multiplication, and there's a key of just realizing that you can have things small double. Because if you look at a few of these investments, Mara is actually, so some people that don't want to be directly on cryptocurrency by owning tokens like Bitcoin, what you can do is go indirectly around it, because being in the stock market is more safer. So Mara is a mining company. So they fluctuate with when Bitcoin fluctuate, but they're more about the mining. So the more they mine, the more Bitcoin they own and things like that. So lucky for me, I got in this very early when it was $4.5, and already it was $18. Although today it was at like $22, and because Biden's in power and we don't know who is going to be regulating the cryptocurrency in America, because all those news affects things. Even though Bitcoin is global, so Russia, China, they're very bullish, they're very powerful in Bitcoin. UK is more scared of it. America's more braver than the UK, but what things happen in America still affects things in the short term. But in the long term, even though I can still see here, I'm £2,000 or 2,500 in profit, which means, and my market value is 3,400, which means I only actually have £900 of my own money in there. But there was times, this like last week, this was like at 4,000, 5,000 pounds in profit. But with what's going on with while America settles down and Bitcoin, if you listen to the news, it's been flourishing and flourishing for ages. So it's actually good for it to settle down, because we call this a bull market. So the fact things settle down will make, when it starts bouncing back up again, it'll make the bull run last longer. Because if things just kept shooting, then you'll get to the peak too soon. You'll get to what they call euphoria and people FOMOing in and things like that. But I'm going on about Bitcoin a bit too much. But the other one, so you got Eagle here, which is drone technology. With the pandemic, yeah, think about new ways of delivering goods, new ways of doing agriculture and things like that. And this is another one that got in there. But this is $4.
Jonathan, you sound breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me now? Because sometimes when I'm moving the screen.
Yeah, I think it's when you're moving the screen, but I can hear you fine now.
Yes, so Ag Eagle's another one where you can see it's $4 and it's now $14. So that's more than double. And then a few of them that's mainly in profit, you can see the price and compare it to the current price. So it is very key that in investing, we can easily double our money. But if I go to market value at the same time, there are some minuses, although overall you can see my live is in profit, but there are some minuses. But one key to investing is it's not a real loss unless I sell at a minus. So even though some of these pharmaceutical ones are at a minus, it's not a real loss until I sell. So you can technically hold for a very long time and eventually they will rise. But if we go back to my other slide,
there's a few questions for you, Jonathan, before we move on too far. Am I okay to just jump in?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so someone's asked, what is compound interest?
So compound interest, in a sense, is interest on interest. So simple interest would be where I put money in, say in the bank account, I put money in and they're giving me 2% increase of my £100. So what's that, £2? And I take that out and I'm making that interest. I've made £2 a year. Although in reality, they're not giving you 2% interest, they're only giving you that 0.5%. But that'd be simple interest that I'm just making one simple interest in one go. But where it becomes compounding is the fact that you've made that interest, but you've left it in. So now, say the next year you'll get another 2%, you're getting 2% of £102. So what you're making is compounding. So it's not always getting 2% of your original £100. You're getting interest on interest because you've left that 2% in. So it's compounding. So it's cool. The same with the stock market, really, because I've bought certain stocks. It's now worth more, even though my original investment was whatever it was. So I've made certain percentage gains. The more it keeps going, I'm making more percentage gains on the new value of what that stock is worth, even though originally I only paid a certain amount. But the more it keeps going up, the more my money's compounding. It's not a linear relationship, because the more I have in it, the more 1% of something bigger is more than 1% of your original amount. So the more it goes up in little percentages is the more I'm making. So I'm compounding with even just my small original investment.
Cool. That makes sense. There was one more question. So when you was talking about the stock market, how do you get the information to know what to invest in, when to invest, and when to get out?
Okay, so I'll go back to sharing. So one of the things I do really is a quick search on Google. I will look at, on my platform, it shows me top winners. First, there's different ways of investing, because some of the things you would invest in what you know. So some of the things I know, Apple, certain technologies, I'll invest, look at their books, look at their P ratios, look at if they're making money, looking at their company records and how much dividends they pay, because it depends on your plan. Some people go with dividends. So if you want to be safer, you go with companies that are paying you dividends, then you can work out your dividend yield, how much you can make in a year. But my more strategy was going for companies that have growth. So you got things like Tesla and certain companies where technically they're not making money, and you could argue they're very overvalued. But because I believe in the growth of electric vehicle cars and what they're going to do, then when I bought them and things like that, that's how I would invest, in knowing that I believe by 1 year. And technically Warren Buffett, a financial guru, say when you invest, you should be willing to keep that company for 5 years. So it's not even about a year, it's about where you think that company will be in 5 years. So some of the ways to invest is you research the books, and if they're in profit, you can be more safer knowing that they will be in profit for a long period of time, on the basis they've been in profit, making money for the last 5 years. So that's one of the ways, because at the end of the day, even though I'm showing you I've doubled my money and I've gone from 8,000 to 25,000, the game the rich do is just it's about being in it. Because at the end of the day, in a bank account, you can make 0.5% in a year. In bonds, you can make 1 to 5% if you're lucky. It's hard to find a bond now that's even 2%. And then property is another good one. And then you've got stocks. So the key is, can you make more money than the banks would give you? Because at the end of the day, even if you made 2% of your £100 in a year, the bank would not give you 2% on that money. So even if you left it in something safe like Apple or things like that, and you're only making small gains in the year, although Apple, technically you probably would get 5% to 20% in Apple as well, but just as long as you're making more than 2%, then you are actually playing the game the rich do, although there's other things in my presentation we'll talk about. So the other ways to look at investing and when to get out, it depends on your strategy, which I'll probably talk about more later, because there's day trading, there's scalping, there's swing trading. And the key to all of that is sticking to your strategy. So if you set a 1%, because later when I talk about playing with £1,000, because I like £400, but I like the whole number. Because if you play with £1,000, and my daily target when I started was £50. So if I've got £1,000, I just see a stock that is going crazy for that day, and I don't even know much about it, but I just see it's been going crazy for that day, and I Google and see, is there news? Why is it rising? What's going on with it? And I decide to gamble, in a sense, and look and just ride it, put that £1,000 on it. Sometimes it's not really a gamble, because I also realize I see the potential of that company. But some people would do it because with real day traders, it's not always looking at the with real day traders, sometimes if you're day trading or scalping, it's not about looking at the books, it's about jumping on, but you've got your strategy of knowing if it drops between a certain percentage, you're coming out. And when it goes to a certain percentage, if we just say 1% on 1,000, that's £10. Once it reaches my 1%, I will just sell. And that means I just need 5 of those trades, and I've made my £50 for the day. And I can do that all day. But again, this presentation is not really about day trading or scalping or swing trading, although it does work and part of my profit is from doing that. It is mainly about investing, because the key is investing in more safer things. You can get to ETFs, which are more diversified, or you can build your own ETF, but the key is about investing. But day trading and swing trading does work. Where I minimize the risk is, even with Apple and even with Tesla, even with surer companies, you could day trade some of those, because some people would be thinking, oh, I sold too early. And if I kept, because even with Tesla, I'm a bit upset. I had Tesla when it was $350, and right now it's at $800, whatever, although I bought back in. But why I'm not upset, because at the end of the day, my target was to make £50 a day. So apart from my long-term investments, I still didn't mind selling Tesla when it made me the profit, and I could make that profit real. Because bear in mind, until you actually sell your stocks, so even some of the ones I showed you where it was in green with big high percentages, that's not real money until I actually sell. Although that's the count of my, that's the value of my account. I could sell everything out and that would be real money, but it's not real money till I sell. So that's why even with the safer companies like Apple and Tesla, if you ended up selling it to make your target, it is good, profit is profit. But realistically, you want to have some of the ones you do not touch. You know, those are long term, you're not touching them and you leave them. When you get enough money to play around with the ones that you're just looking at swing trading or day trading, then you play around with that. Because later on, the key to investing is actually discipline and time in the market. It's not about all the skills you could learn, which there are skills, but we'll find it's about this discipline of sticking to your strategy. Was there any other questions?
No, I think that was it for now.
So I'm just going to go back to Zoom so I can share the presentation. So part of the presentation was how the economy works. So from young, we are told to work hard, but then I grew up and heard it's better to work smart, not hard. Now thinking about this, two people can do the same job and achieve different results. And I'm thinking, why is this? Even in teaching, some teachers would talk for 70% of the lesson and students do work for 30% of the lesson, and others talk for just 20% of the lesson and students do work for 80% of the lesson. So it's the same job, but different approaches and different results. Essentially, everyone is trying to make money, but yet we are not taught how to make money directly. I believe it's getting a little bit better with financial lessons and stuff, but not really. But we are taught to get jobs. This is not bad, as the job can give you experience and develop you to hopefully learn to work smarter and not harder. But many forget to do this, especially in a job where more hours mean more money. Now, many are working harder than others, but making less. Funny enough, I have not read many books, but I apply what I read in books, even sometimes without realizing I'm applying it. In a recent book I read, I never thought much about the introduction of the book, where the writer mentioned he has interviewed many rich people. Now looking back at the book and the many chapters, I realized the power of doing what the rich do in order to be rich. You need to work smart and not hard. This also means knowing what the rich do. We see it in movies, but somehow we don't think about it as something we should be doing. Now, how businesses are structured and how the world technically is structured. Now, communism is not a bad thing when the leader is sharing that money with everyone and it's about everyone growing. And even biblical days, technically that was a communist society when the disciples took all their wealth, shared it with the community, shared it with everyone, and everyone was flourishing. So technically communism is not bad. But currently we're in a capitalistic society. Now, if we look at how that works, so in a world of capitalism, we forget everything is capital. Even humans are capital. Employers make more money by making the human resources or human capital work smarter. They also make more by using their capital, their cash, to invest in projects or companies that will give them a higher return or capital or hold the value of their capital. Furthermore, they are even willing to invest in their human capital to provide training to make their human capital more productive and work smarter. Now, what if we did what the rich do by playing the same game the rich do, by making yourself work smarter and not harder? Train yourself to be a better capital, and with the cash you make, invest it like the rich do. The rich also use experts to invest their money. Hedge fund managers, which is a great method, but hedge fund managers are also rich. So what if you could take it further by playing the same game as the hedge fund managers? Some hedge fund managers have even left the profession in order to work for themselves. Is this because the profession is too hard, or they're not working hard, they're working hard and not smart. So we got here, take equity release. So I'll look at that in a second. So make your money, make money, and passive income such as from investments is the game the rich play. But we somehow think it has to be all about making as much as the hedge fund managers. But it's not about making millions or getting rich quick. It is just about knowing you can play the game too. So my question would be, why aren't you? So in my first 4 months of being in the stock market, I've been able to do more than double what I started with. And of course, not everyone will be able to replicate this, as I learned quick to not let emotions rule. A lot of stories I've heard is they get into it, they got wrecked, and then they do what is revenge trading. They throw more in, trying to get revenge on whatever stock that wreck them and things like that. And some do options and other stuff which you can get into, which is a lot more risky if you don't know what you're doing. And of course, using leverages with options, that's why many people like it. But more leverage you use, the more you could get wrecked if you don't know what you're doing. So all investing is more about strategy and emotions. And long-term investing in growth stocks. So while I also was making good risk versus reward options with some penny stocks, I also was not scared of new markets like fintech and crypto. So risk versus rewards combined with maths is a powerful tool. Firstly, by having most of your investment in safer companies, you'll be able to see you're already playing the game the rich are playing, and your capital, your cash is making you more capital cash than you can. And then you can also decide to risk a small percentage of your portfolio into companies that have potential but are more risky. But you also don't have to, because the key is just playing the game. You don't have to make more risks straight away. So I've already talked about scalping and things like that, so I might skip a few of these slides. But with one of the things I'll say is, so with scalping and day trading, where emotions come into play, because there was a day when I made, so even though my target was £50, there was a day I let it run and it made £400. When things like that happen, it's great. But then what actually happens is the next day, I no longer was selling at £50. I was thinking, no, it's going to be another great day. It will go up, it will go up, it will go up. So the minute you leave your strategy and start getting greedy is how you start getting wrecked. Because I left my strategy, saw I had a great day, thinking every day was going to be a great day, it started sinking. So even though I could have sold at £50, things started sinking, because I started with 8,000, but I actually lost 2,000 at the beginning. So I actually went from 6,000 to that 25,000, which sounds better than the 8,000. But essentially, a lot of that was with discipline, learning not to do too much at the same time, like Forex and different things I was trying to do, and ultimately not sticking to my strategy. And the same thing. So when you are in profit, emotions can creep in. When you are at loss, blind faith can creep in, and you keep thinking, oh, because the next thing when I'm a loss, I was thinking I'm not going to sell at a loss because it must go back up. It must go back up. But if it's not my long-term stocks and it was originally my day trading, my scalping stocks, then the key is having your invest strategy and your discipline to walk away. But again, I wouldn't advise everyone to do day trading and scalping unless you have that money that you can waste or risk. The best thing is to be having those safer ones like Apple and pins and some ones. I don't really play the dividend game, but Apple does pay dividends. But dividends are cool. But I'm more like ones that will be big companies in 5 years' time. If I think back on the story of what if our parents, think about what our parents could have invested in, and now think of things that's going on that what our children are doing, like Roblox or technology or blockchain in general. Because when I talk about crypto, what people forget is what blockchain is. Like blockchain has revolutionized the industry. So even take crypto aside, what made Bitcoin very big is the fact of blockchain, because the internet can be very much hacked. Even the other day, the US Reserve's big national bank was hacked, with blockchain, it makes it very harder to hack it because it's a proof of work system where the more computers you have, it's a blockchain. So it's harder for me to come and break that chain. I'll need to have a computer that's fast enough to be generating new nodes and new chains to make you believe, because the longer chain is what all the systems will believe. So for you to trust my new ledger, because blockchains are just like the old systems of ledgers of who owns what, who's paying what, so just ledgers and chains and a block, basically. But for you to trust which block to believe, which has all the information on, is the longest one. So it's very impossible with all the maths and the algorithms and the amount of computing power you would have to trick all the millions of blockchains, all the computers around because the global industry. So that's why blockchain technology outside of crypto is revolutionary technology. So some of the ones I invested in was, even if you think about, there's a company called New Cipher, which is crypto, but some of the cryptos are actual companies. So it's about their idea, but why they're also crypto, because they essentially have a token. And by you getting their token, then you're giving them liquidity and you're investing in them, which is another game the rich do. They are able to buy companies before they get in the stock market and get their IPO. They are able to get in their private sale. So with crypto, you also are able to get into companies before they launch, because you can be on Telegram, you can be on the private sale, you can be investing in some of these companies before they launch as well. So that's another key thing why I like crypto. It lets the market be accessible to everyday person. And that's why a lot of industries or the banks and other people will fight crypto and blockchain, because of that power that it gives access to everyday person. Even Nigeria are very bullish, and Africa bullish on crypto, because PayPal blocked them from being able to use their platform because of scams and stuff. But if you stop exports coming and money being able to come into your country, then you are hurting that country. And we can get onto how the inflation in Nigeria's government and America just prints money, because that's another thing of why I like the idea of Bitcoin, because the more the company, more we have to work for money, but yet they can just print it. That is essentially slavery. Whereas crypto and Bitcoin, which just wants to be a store of value and even money in the future, it breaks that chain that I can send money to anyone in the world, and I can walk around this world with money. Because a lot of people, they invest in gold because it's also a store of value. But if I was to take my gold across borders, they would charge me on tax just for changing my gold. And when I talk about the future of the millennials and my children, they are not really going to want to invest in gold. That's our generation. They have been growing up on laptops, on iPads, and they will be fine with having digital wallets and Bitcoin and things like that. They already, Visa's approved it, PayPal's approved it. You can buy Bitcoin and all this stuff on PayPal. There's Visa debit cards. So you've got the Financial Times. As many people sending news will make you seem that Bitcoin's a scam and it's this and that. But if you actually did your research, you've got big companies that are investing in it because they understand the future. You've got big banks. Even if you take Bitcoin aside, they've launched their own stable coin. So once they were fighting against cryptocurrency in general, but now they've turned the page and they have their own stable coins. Because with stable coins, essentially, they can transfer money globally and make things easier for themselves, because at the end of the day, they want to be able to be in all types of market. So yeah, so when I was saying with Nigeria and other people, this is why it's good that cryptocurrency and blockchain can help global world. Smaller companies, smaller countries are able to get into this, and we are able to receive payments using technologies like this when PayPal block you and things like that, so it can grow. So, but what I realized, many reasons many people probably don't play the game is we first need to develop a character for it and not turn it into a game of gambling. But instead, we need to stick to our long-term strategy of just investing in companies that you know what they do, because that's one of the key things. Know what the company does. Even if someone's telling you about this and that, research, are you sold at what they do? And they have no debt, or do they have enough cash to cover their debts? With smaller companies, sometimes they have debts. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Then with growth companies, you need to be looking at, are they reducing their debts over time, or is there potential for more sales and things like that, like with Tesla? and Neo in certain companies. And then do they pay dividends is another dividend strategy, or is your first choice a growth company strategy, as the daily targets are only achievable if you have some time when the markets are open. Because even with day trading and all that, I was literally living on this. So I was teaching, I was also on there from the market. American market opens at 2:30, closes at 9. I was there for most of the time while doing my research, but I was there. So you have to actually have the time to do it. Although some of it, I could have walked away, but because I did find it fun, I liked the numbers, it gave me a hobby or something to do. So at the same time, and I can see a question here, what you can use to buy Bitcoin. So you can buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, and I can talk more on my link, because if you go to my website, on my WhatsApp, I can tell you more, but you can buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, on Voyager, on different platforms like that. And the safer ones are the ones that require KYC. So they want to know who you are. Some other ones, why not people like cryptocurrency, there's some where you don't need to tell them who you are. So that's where it gets to the criminal use of certain some of them, although some of them are more like one's called Monero, where that's more where criminals use that one more, because even your transactions are not watched. But with Coinbase, it's more safer because you can get compensation in a sense, because they know who you are, and if you lose your ID and things like that, because you should remember your password and store it. But say you did lost with Coinbase, you're able to use your email and other stuff for them to know who it is, your account. Whereas some people have lost millions because they were in Bitcoin from ages ago, but they don't know their password no more and things like that. And it's not a company that was doing KYC, so they didn't have to give them their passport. Any ID is what KYC is. But we'll find that most of what we are saying is, you will look back and realize some people are living great lives just because of long-term investments they made 5 years ago. They played the game the rich play. Capitalism. Use capital to make capital, work smart, not hard, and learn how to use information. So we're saying new year and new truth. So in the chat, I just want you to type some information in your lifetime that you believe has changed your life while I look at some of these questions. So I've got someone here that's saying having children is that information that has changed their life. So we're looking for, think back in all your lifetime, what key information would you say has changed your life in any way? It could be positive, it could be negative, although we're more looking for positive. But what things, even from school or in the news or from a financial advisor, from church, from anywhere, what information could you share in a group that you would say has changed your life? And doesn't have to be in a drastic way. It could have just brought you a bit more happiness. It could have changed the way you cook, changed your well-being. Because even CMOS, with all this pandemic stuff, one thing I don't like pandemic stuff, I don't believe they people enough about how that the key is actually looking after your immune system. So, and that's why I like Taekwondo, because it's about health. It's about, and later on, when I talk about playing the game the rich play, technically in this, I'm talking about rich as wealth, but we could argue, what does it actually mean to be rich? Because there is a higher richness, but for this definition, I'm just talking about wealth, but information. So we got here information about education being important. We got great advice from a mortgage advisor, which got me on the property ladder from a young age. Very nice. Even with property. So even the other day I was realizing I was trying to sell a 4-bedroom flat, and I didn't realize these estate agents make money just by, and this is another game the rich play. So you just make money off of people's things. So then by them selling it for me, they can make 2.5%. Just now I realize why there was so much estate agents all around the building, all around everywhere, because they can make that commission. Before I didn't really realize it until you go to actually the process of trying to sell a house, you realize, and even in that contract, even if I was to give it to another estate agent or sell it myself, while it's under contract with them, they would still get that commission. So that's why we're waiting, because they haven't really done anything. So once it's over, now I realize if you sell it yourself, though it's harder, you can keep more of the money. What else have we got? So new year, new truths. So I hope we're taking some notes. So to play the game the rich do, it is all about learning to use information and developing your character to be disciplined. And here are some steps on how to use information. So 1, advertise to yourself. An easy example is to use information would be to write on the information and keep telling yourself it. There was once a time we learned how to do times table just by rote learning, repetition. And what if I told you that you can change your whole life just by changing your thoughts, and your thoughts become your actions, and your actions become your character? And we all know that famous quote. Advertise to yourself. I understand how advertising works. Advertising uses association to connect to your emotions.
We've lost you there, Jonathan. We can't hear what you're saying.
Want something. Therefore, connect pieces of information. Let me slow down again. Can you hear me any better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So connect pieces of information to your emotions. One revision strategy is to imagine you are in a room and make items in the room linked to things you are trying to remember. And as you walk through the room, in your mind, you begin to associate the items in the room with the information that you need to learn. Now 2, and the rich do this a lot, because even with the rich, remember, part of the game the rich do is being a company owner and having visions. So 2, write your goals down and visualize them. See yourself in your goals, walking around full of joy. Connect your emotions and desire to your goals. Having pictures or words, different types of associations around your house that advertise to you your glorious future. Now 3, start to reject waste. Start to hunger for change and progress. Start to link information as your stepping stone to knowledge and wisdom and growth. Keep repeating the information until it is a part of you. Now 4, understand what information is. Information is defined as data drawn from all 5 senses and thoughts that is used by people to make sense of the world. Imagine if you began to decide to apply the data you have and change your world by changing how you make sense of the world. Even look at the modern language. You have the ability to put letters together to make a word that someone understands. So in a sense, you are able to build things. You can build sentences and paragraphs and stories with information. You can build your own life with information. We have the internet that has so much information at our fingertips. What do you need to learn and apply that will change your life today? Even from a church basis, there's scriptures in us that many people that are not applying. Many people I've seen, they go to church, they run around the building when preachers preaching and things like that, but then they walk out that service and they don't actually use what was being preached at them. So the key is, do we understand what we're capable of when we turn that truth and knowledge into reality and we walk in that truth and that knowledge? And then 5, this new year, with new truths, limit your distractions. Turn off the TV, limit your phone time until you see you applying information that is helpful. Because one thing the rich do, I don't know all rich people, but in books you read of people that study rich, they go to bed very early and they wake up very early. They're very routine and things like that. So looking after your sleeping patterns, looking after your well-being, your health, obviously they have the best doctors and things like that. But essentially, if you're to play the game they are playing, it is about looking after your own health. If you can't get the rich as doctors, then research the best punches and things, because CMOS, why I love CMOS, is like 101 nutrients out of the 150 vitamins or something like that your body requires. So it's like over 60 to 70% of all the nutrients that we need and things like that. So travel with, think about how you learn a new language best as well. It is best to learn a new language when you're in that country from young as well, and you're immersed with it, that you speak it without even trying. So I myself got immersed in financial information, so much so with all I'm talking about investing, I daily was listening to financial news. Most of it was on crypto, and some of it was on stock markets and looking at information, but daily I listened to news. So before I knew it, I can talk for days about Bitcoin and crypto and finance, because I daily immerse myself in that language. And that's how best to take information, is by going in depth into it. Even from a maths point of view, when I teach the students maths and we keep it on surface level, they would understand more if they were to take it away and go and research, who is Pythagoras? Where did he do it? Where do you use it in real world? What companies, what industries are using these maths? If they really did that, which I tell them to, it would become more in depth and embedded in their psyche for them to understand the skill bigger than just being a classroom thing. That's why some new colleges is all about work experience and you working while learning, because they want you to have that real experience of your learning, which is a good thing for some people, active learning. So from learning about what money is, so every day I was listening to particular topics on finance. So I was learning about what money is, the truth about the corruption of money, and how money is changing, and how banks were even set up, and how different new businesses can position themselves to grow with that information, and how I can multiply and add, just like 1 + 1 is 2, and 2 × 2 is 4, just by using information. And then 7, teach. Now this is the key, because I blog and things, I found this is useful. Teach someone and teach yourself, because now, even though I've got a million things I could be doing, I do piano, taekwondo, I've got my children, I do music, I do a lot, but I found, which I never thought I would, I do essays technically for fun, because when you blog, technically you're doing an essay. But what I found in that process is you actually by me teaching someone else, I'm actually teaching myself. So this is 7, teach someone and teach, especially if you have children, because with children, like one of the #1 industries, if you go on LinkedIn right now, is actually blockchain. If you go on LinkedIn, there's an experiment. If you just put there that you can, you're a blockchain developer, people will just hunt you. That's how easy it is. Even if you don't know about nothing to do with blockchain, they will just hunt you because you put that on there. So blockchain is the #1 industry right now. So with children and things like that, teaching your children how to code, because that's a whole language, blockchain and all of that. Teaching them how to do things from very young is key. And even yourself, because you're able to, in this pandemic and stuff, with, luckily I can teach from home, and I've done books and stuff, all of this stuff in this pandemic. Some have not been that fortunate, but a lot of people are reskilling and upskilling and things like that. So one of the things you can find is anyone can become an expert in blockchain, because it's so new. It's one of the industries where you just knowing a bit of it, well, you're more expert than anyone else, the majority of the people, because it's so small a market right now. Whereas it's hard to be the best, the most expert carpenter, the most expert teacher or doctor, or it's hard to be expert in those fields because there's so many people. Whereas, because just like we go back to the parents, if they had a chance to learn about Google and the internet when it first came, they would have mastered that. Some did, they went to C++ and things like that. So they're in a nicer place now. They can do coding and other stuff, because some of this is still based off of C++ and coding and things like that. Just the language has changed. So some are in a more understanding of all this. And that's where, even with investing in crypto and stuff, if you then actually understand how blockchain works and you understand the coding, that's why when you go into certain companies, because remember I said some rich people, they invest in companies from the start. So when you look at some cryptocurrencies, it's about the utility, what they do. So before I was kind of talking about New Cipher, their one is, imagine if you could see on your phone your medical records, because bear in mind, data is a big industry. This is why they were banning Hawaii because they were saying China was getting too much of our data. There's now all these problems with WhatsApp having our data and things like that, and Facebook and all of that, because data is a key industry. So with New Cipher and with the medical field, what they find hard is how to store data and transfer it in clouds and how to keep it safe. But New Cipher, though they're crypto, the actual company, what their idea is, if they're able to have a technology, which is only possible in the blockchain with how the proof of work and proof of staking works and how the coding works, because it's more safer, that you can access your medical records live on your phone anytime, and the doctors can access it live at any time, and other people can't access it. So it's only available to those that it's available to. So that is one key thing of this company is trying to do. There's other ones like a company called The Graph, because bear in mind, Google, you can search everything you want on Google. But if you were to search certain things like what is the biggest crypto that done 50% last year and things like that, you cannot search this information on Google stuff because it's too new. This is where The Graph is a new company, but they're also a crypto token where their utility is about being able to search everything you need about crypto. So if you think about, if I was to invest in Google back then, technically you have a chance to invest in the new Google that's about crypto and blockchain with the company called The Graph and things like that. So with investing, it's also about understanding what they do, not just whereas you got some that are called Dogecoins. Now Dogecoin, some of you may have heard, it actually does nothing, but this has been going to the moon just because you got people like Elon Musk and certain celebrities, they would tweet Dogecoin, and the next day everyone's buying Dogecoin. You've got memes about Dogecoins and it's pumping, people buying it, but it doesn't actually do anything. You can even argue about things about the vaccine, like I can't say the word, is it Pfizer or whichever companies, as Zenka and other ones, but these companies, technically, they're not going 500% and 600% compared to what Dogecoin's other stuffs are doing. And if you were to believe the vaccine is here to save the whole world, that's a different story. But technically, if you're into the vaccine, you believe it's going to save the world, these companies are not doing crazy returns compared to silly things that people are tweeting about Dogecoin and things like that, which have no utility. So some of the stock market and stuff doesn't make sense. So that's why it's key to actually know what things are doing, what the company does, what is the utility, and teaching yourself. So you can journal what you have been learning. You can think about how you've been applying it and journal what you've been doing. Because in my crypto journey, I've been writing things down. Even there's a thing called NFTs. So imagine back in the day, you had Pokemon cards and things like that. And these are collectibles. But now imagine that same thing, but on the digital space. So I got one, which was, so I paid about 1,500 for a card, which I never thought I would do. Now it's a digital card. But why I did it was because I was able to get in on a company called Bondly, which is all about DeFi, so decentralized technology, which I can get into because that's another world of the crypto. We're all able to pool money together and lend money globally just by me putting money into that pool, and then I can borrow money from anyone and they can borrow money from me, and it cuts out the bank and it cuts out things. And this is another thing of why I'm bullish on the whole financial technology. And even if you're up to date on the news, even the actual big banks are getting in on this, because you cannot be a big bank and find your investor and tell them, oh, this is happening over there, but we can't take your money and pull it in that market. So this is why, forget Bitcoin and other stuff, cryptocurrency in general has to become, it's already a $1 trillion market anyway, so it's too big to get squashed. And many banks are already getting into it. So financial technology in general is a future thing. So that's why I also enjoy the journey. But with NFTs, so that's why I got the card, because it linked me with Bondly, which is to do with, like I said, the financial technology of being able to borrow money without using the banks and do it globally. So it let me own part of that company or get in on the groundworks, because owning tokens is just like owning shares. It's the same kind of principle, really. So I was able to get in on Bondly from very small and just let it grow over the years, whatever happens to it. And I got an airdrop of it. So why I like an airdrop is you get it for free. So the tokens I got for Bondly were all free. So it's already at like $1,000 the other day, although today the market's been dropping. There was times like $2,000, but I got this for free just by owning the NFT. Technically, I need to have enough of what I paid the NFT for it to be profit. Although even with the NFT, the day I bought it, by 1 week, someone wants to buy it for double what I paid for it, but I didn't want to sell because by holding the NFT, you're eligible for 3 airdrops. 2 of the airdrops already happened, and there's 1 more to happen. And also by holding the card, you're eligible to be part of having less gas fees and certain things when you're changing cryptos around. So just by having the card, you're more incentives to be part of company of stuff. As well, there's also a game aspect of the card, but I wasn't interested in playing the game and these other things that is also some other people were interested in. But what I found with NFTs, the future of Bondly as well, is imagine, because it's hard to trade your Netflix account, your Twitter account, your YouTube account, because bear in mind, assets in the traditional world is just houses, companies, things like that. But if you think about now, the power people have, if they have a Twitter following or a YouTube following, that is an asset for some, that is generating money. So where NFTs come into play, imagine by you having an NFT for your Instagram account or for your Twitter account, whoever has ownership of the NFT, and it's just called a non-fungible token, so it's just a digital card or digital token, but whoever has access owns that, you own that Twitter account, you own that Instagram account, you own the property, because it also can be linked to deeds later on. So instead of having to sell the physical paper deeds, we know whoever has access to the NFT, to the token, is the owner of that house. So you're then able to get into a time where we're able to swap. Imagine you're able to swap your YouTube account that has 2 million followers for a house. You can swap assets using blockchain technology. So this is the future, why I got into NFT and why I got into Bondly. But it's exciting time. And I learned all these things more by writing it down, teaching myself, having it out there for others to learn, and inspiring yourself. So, so any questions we can put, because we're winding down, any questions we can put in the site, in the chat. And while we wait for any questions, so staying connected. So my website, jonathanlillywrites.com, there's lots of free information there, because part of what the rich do is looking after themselves. So on my website, I've got things about how to be alone, how to be disciplined, how to overcome low self-esteem, anxiety, how to overcome lust and sexual desires. Because even the book I'm reading, a lot of people fail because they can't control their sexual urges and other things. So if you're able to learn to control yourself, this is key to life in general, and teaching your children the same thing, because even with inheritance and stuff, I could give my children all my money I've made, but if they don't know how to keep money, because what I've learned with all this, it's very easy to make money. Like I literally can show you, I can make you money now. Just even if I gave you my link for Trading 212, you can get a free share. You can literally make money this instant, but it's harder to keep money. That's the key with all this information. So in my book called You Are Rich, this is where I go through little steps on how to be disciplined, how to not procrastinate, how to be organized, as well as some steps about using the 1% and £1,000 and trading and day trading and things like that. But what I would say in this whole thing about using information, new year, new truths, I would say the most important thing from my Christian view is being filled with information that goes beyond this earth, because then it's easy to achieve everything else as your foundation is right. And it's not hard to make money. It's in fact harder to keep money. And we could go into what actually means to be rich. For the purpose of this presentation, like I said, my wealth was the main definition of being rich, but it is a greater wealth than finances. And this is why I also have a book that you can buy now on Amazon called Divine Wholeness. And it's got different daily devotionals and things that will bless you very much. And this is the WhatsApp. You can't phone this, well, I guess you can phone it on WhatsApp, but I don't really talk on the phone that much on the WhatsApp, apart from as to people that are mentoring, but you can catch me or message me via the WhatsApp here. And obviously on the website, there's a lot of free information, which will be part of the book. So you can get it for free now. Also on this Kindle. So if you got unlimited Kindle, you can listen to it. You can read it for free now. The audio version is coming soon. And you can also get the paperback version. And thank you, Lola. Yeah, so together, and I have to thank Black Economy as well, because I am all about, because what I've realized, there's a lot of great people in this group, and there's a lot of great people in our nation and our economy in general. And we want to become more smarter with our money, and just together, pooling money together, pooling our resources, pooling our teams together, and we can all grow and flourish together. And that is the end of my presentation.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Jonathan. Lots of information there to take away for everyone. And more important than taking it away, it's actually applying the information that you've been given. So some of the main points for me personally that I'll be taking away from that is about using all the different types of information that you are given, not just listening to it and walking away and forgetting about it. It's about using it. Another point that I'm going to be taking away from this is about investing what wealth you have got, and doing it smartly, researching, and then when you are investing, it's about having a strategy and sticking to that strategy and being disciplined with that strategy. As Jonathan said, not letting emotions take over. And then the final thing that I'm taking away from that is, because I've got 4 kids myself, it's about teaching the next generation, teaching your kids. A great point that Jonathan said, or a great quote which he said at the start: when we're all at school, when we're young, you're taught how to get a job. You're not taught how to make money. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to teach your children and the next generation. So yeah, I'd just like to thank Jonathan again. It was a brilliant presentation, talk, discussion. He's shared all his details at the top. I've recorded the session, so I'll be putting the recording out on the Facebook group and on some of our other platforms as well at Black-Owned Economy. As I've shared loads of times in the past, but I'm going to share it again. If you want any information on any of the lives, events, blogs that Black-Owned Economy are doing, you can head over to our website, which is www.blackowned-economy.co.uk, and just have a look on the website. There's loads of things on there, so I'm sure there's something that you'll be interested in. And thanks again, Jonathan, and thanks everybody else for turning up.
God bless you all.
God bless. Speak to you all soon. Thanks.